The screen fades in with a slow sweep across the empty Heartland ranch. The wind brushes through the trees, the horses stand quietly, and there's a heavy silence in the air. A narrator's voice begins softly with a touch of sorrow. Sometimes, the places we love most are the ones that hold our deepest pain. And in Heartland Season 19, the story opens not with joy, but with a tragedy that shakes the ranch to its very core. The camera lingers on the distant mountains, the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows. The narrator continues, "This is not just another season. It is the beginning of a storm, one that will test the strength of family, love, and the spirit of moving forward." Season 18 ended with the Heartland family standing at a crossroads. The ranch, their safe haven, had seen its fair share of struggles, but nothing quite prepared them for the weight of what was to come. At the close of the last season, Amy was left searching for her place in a world that seemed to be shifting beneath her feet. She carried the quiet strength that has always defined her, but behind her steady gaze lived questions that had no easy answers. Jack, the pillar of the ranch, faced his own silent battle. Age and time had made him wiser, yes, but also more aware of how fragile life truly is. His every glance across the fields, every pause by the barn, seemed filled with reflection. He had seen loss before, and yet there was a shadow approaching, something that even his wisdom couldn't soften. Tim, ever restless, was caught between the drive to protect his family and the mistakes of his past. His choices, though rooted in love, often brought new challenges. The cracks between his intentions and his actions left space for doubt, and in the premiere of Season 19, those cracks begin to widen. And then there was the wider family, Lou, juggling responsibilities as both a mother and leader, trying to balance the impossible demands of holding everything together. Katie, growing into her own story, struggling with the expectations that come with being part of a legacy. Each character stood on the edge of change, and though they didn't yet know it, tragedy was already making its way toward them. The air of uncertainty at the end of Season 18 was not just a closing note, it was a warning. The ranch itself, once filled with laughter and warm dinners, felt quieter. The silence of the land mirrored the silence within each character. Even the horses, usually a symbol of freedom and strength, seemed to sense the unease. Heartland has always been about family, about love, about healing. But healing only comes after hurt, and the premiere of Season 19 dares to bring that hurt forward, leaving no one untouched. The narrator's words hang heavy as the camera cuts to black and white flashes of the ranch from past seasons, moments of joy, tears, and unity. Each memory feels distant, fragile, as though reminding the audience that what is loved most is also what can be lost most easily. The audience is left on edge. What lies ahead for Amy, Jack, and the rest of the Heartland family? The stage is set not for comfort, but for heartbreak. And yet, buried within that heartbreak is the first glimmer of something else, the possibility of new beginnings. The screen opens with a storm rolling over the Alberta sky. The clouds are heavy, and the sound of distant thunder fills the air. The ranch is still, but it feels as though the land itself is holding its breath. In that silence comes a moment that no one at Heartland could have ever been ready for. Tragedy doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day, leaving behind a wound that changes everything. The narrator's voice is calm but weighted, as scenes flash across the screen. Amy. Brushing down Spartan, Jack feeding the horses, Lou on a phone call, Katie laughing in the distance. Then, the mood shifts. A phone ringing breaks the calm. A door opening. A face gone pale. The first ripples of tragedy spread across the family. Heartland has always shown us life in its rawest form. The joy of new foals, the warmth of family dinners, the victories of small moments. But just as the land gives, it also takes away. And in Season 19's premiere, it takes something precious. The tragedy is not just about the event itself, it's about how it shatters the illusion of safety. The ranch, which has always been a place of healing, suddenly feels fragile. Amy's steady hands falter for the first time as grief grips her heart. Her strength, built through years of struggle, wavers as she is forced to face a loss she cannot mend with kindness or patience. Jack, the anchor of the family, stands in the barn as the weight of it crashes down on him. He has always carried others through storms, but this one hits closer than ever before. His silence speaks louder than words. His eyes, usually steady, now hold a sorrow too deep to hide. For Lou, the tragedy feels like a breaking point. She has fought so hard to balance her life, her role as a mother, a sister, and a leader. But in this moment, she realizes that no amount of planning can prepare her for loss. Tears fall, not just for what is gone, but for what the family will have to face in the days ahead. Even the ranch itself seems to mourn. The horses are restless, pacing in their stalls. The wind cuts sharper, the fields look darker. It is as though the land understands what the family has lost, holding the grief in its soil, its silence, its shadows. Heartland has never shied away from showing us life's hardest truths. And in this moment, tragedy doesn't just break hearts, it changes the path of every character we love. This isn't just about one person's sorrow, it ripples outward. Tim tries to take control, but his anger hides his fear. Katie looks to the adults for answers, but their silence leaves her searching for her own way through the pain. Each character is changed, reshaped by the loss. The narrator's voice softens, almost whispering now. Tragedy at Heartland is more than a plot twist. It's a reminder that life, even in the beauty of the ranch, can turn in an instant. And when it does, the only way forward is through the grief itself. The screen fades to a wide shot of the ranch at dusk. The sun disappears behind the hills, leaving only shadows across the fields. A single light burns inside the farmhouse, a fragile sign that even in the darkest night, the family will gather. Broken, yes, but together. This is how the season begins. Not with joy, not with celebration, but with a wound that will shape every story that follows. The screen opens on an empty chair at the dinner table. The plates are set, the glasses wait, but no one touches them. A silence heavier than any storm settles over the Heartland Ranch. This is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of absence. The silence of something or someone missing forever. Grief doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in waves. Some days it crashes, and some days it lingers quietly like a shadow that won't let go. Amy stands outside the barn, her hands brushing against the wood, as if trying to steady herself against a world that no longer feels whole. She has always been the heart of Heartland, the one who found healing in horses, who turned pain into strength. But now, her strength feels like a fragile mask. In the stillness of the night, when no one is watching, the tears fall freely. Jack, too, carries the burden in silence. He has always been the anchor, the wise voice, the calm in every storm. Yet even anchors can sink. Alone in the barn, he speaks to the horses in a quiet, broken tone. Words not meant for anyone else to hear. His grief is not loud, but it is deep, carved into every wrinkle on his face, every heavy step he takes across the ranch. Lou tries to fill the space with movement. She answers calls, she makes plans, she tells herself that the family needs her to be strong. But strength built on denial is brittle. When the phone goes silent and the lights are off, she crumbles in the solitude of her room. She doesn't just grieve for what is lost. She grieves for her family, for the weight she cannot carry alone, for the fear that she will never be able to hold them together again. Tim, restless as ever, lashes out. His grief takes the form of anger, at fate, at mistakes, at anyone who dares to suggest moving on. But behind the fire is fear, the same fear he has carried for years. That he will never be enough, that he will always lose the people he loves most. His words cut, but his silence cuts deeper. And Katie, young, still growing, still finding her place, feels the weight in ways she doesn't yet understand. For her, grief is confusion, questions without answers, shadows without names. She looks to the adults for guidance, but when she sees their pain, she realizes she must begin to find her own way through the darkness. The ranch itself mirrors their sorrow. The fields lie untouched, the barns quiet, the air heavy. Even the horses, usually full of spirit, stand restless, sensing the shift in the family's heartbeat. The land, once alive with warmth and laughter, now carries a solemn stillness. This is the aftermath of tragedy. It doesn't just touch one, it ripples through everyone, reshaping them in ways they never expected. Some fight it, some fall beneath it, but all must face it. In the faceless visuals, we see doors left half open, boots by the door unused, a photo frame tilted on a shelf. These small details whisper of lives interrupted, of a home trying to breathe again. But grief also has another side. It is not only pain, it is proof of love. And as the family struggles, as they stumble through their sorrow, a question begins to form beneath the surface. If this much pain can come from love, then maybe, just maybe, love can guide them out of it too. The camera pans upward, past the dark ranch house, past the trees swaying in the night wind, into the starry sky. The narrator's voice softens, with a touch of hope in the sorrow. The fallout of loss is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning of a journey where every tear, every silence, every fragile step forward matters. Because even in the deepest grief, the seeds of healing are already waiting to grow. The screen opens on a quiet dawn. Mist rolls across the fields of Heartland, soft and pale, as though the earth itself is exhaling after a long night of sorrow. The horses move slowly at first, their breaths visible in the crisp air, and the faint sound of birds begins to break the silence. After tragedy, the ranch is not the same, but life, quietly and insistently, moves forward. Every ending, no matter how heavy, carries within it the seed of a beginning. And at Heartland, even after loss, hope finds a way to return. Amy, though still carrying her grief, begins to find small moments of strength again in the rhythm of the ranch. She leans into the simple acts: brushing Spartan, leading a horse into the pasture, standing beneath the open sky. Each action is quiet, but it becomes a step forward. In her silence, there is a new understanding. Healing is not about forgetting, but about carrying love into tomorrow. Jack, the family's rock, finds himself once again in the barn, where memories feel strongest. But this time he doesn't stand alone. Amy joins him. Lou brings coffee. Katie lingers nearby. And in that moment, they are not just individuals grieving. They are a family, standing together in the same space, carrying the same loss. Unity does not erase pain, but it makes it bearable. Lou, ever the one trying to organize the chaos, finally allows herself to lean on others. In one quiet scene, she places her hand on Amy's shoulder, and no words are spoken. But the gesture says everything. For the first time, Lou realizes she doesn't have to hold the ranch together by herself. Strength is not in doing it all alone. It's in sharing the burden. Tim, though still restless, takes a different path. His anger cools into determination. Instead of running from his grief, he channels it into work, into building, into trying to be present. He cannot change the past, but he can fight to be better in the future. His journey is messy, but it is forward-moving, and that too is a beginning. Katie, young and uncertain, begins to discover her own resilience. She watches her family falter, then rise again. She learns that loss is part of life, but so is love. And as she finds her voice in the family's conversations, as she asks her questions and receives honest, sometimes painful answers, she begins to step into her own strength. The ranch itself begins to reflect this slow healing. The fields, once shadowed, now glow golden under the rising sun. The barns echo with footsteps again, not of emptiness, but of effort, of rebuilding. The horses, sensing the shift, move with more energy, as if they too understand that life, though wounded, is finding its rhythm again. Heartland has always been about more than horses or land. It's about the unbreakable spirit of those who call it home. And in Season 19, that spirit is tested like never before. But from the ashes of heartbreak, new beginnings rise. Visually, the faceless video might linger on hands planting new seeds in the soil. A foal running freely for the first time, the family gathered at the table once again, not as they were before, but as something new, something stronger. The story whispers to the audience that healing is not a return to the old, but the courage to embrace the new. The narrator's voice carries the weight of both sorrow and hope as the music swells. Yes, tragedy changes everything, but it also opens the door to rediscovery. To new dreams, new loves, new courage. Season 19 reminds us that even in the darkest moments, life does not stop. It transforms. And at Heartland, every ending will always lead to a beginning. The screen fades on the golden horizon, a horse running free against the light. The sound of hooves echoing like a heartbeat. The camera glides slowly across the Heartland ranch as the seasons shift. Winter snow melting into spring thaw, golden fields turning green again. Each image reminds us change is the only constant. And in Season 19, that truth is more powerful than ever. This season isn't just about what was lost. It's about what rises from the loss. It's about the fragile balance between heartbreak and hope and how one gives meaning to the other. At its core, Season 19 is about family bonds tested by grief. Heartland has always been a story of connection between people, between generations, between humans and horses. But tragedy puts those bonds under strain. The family must decide. Do they let grief pull them apart, or do they fight to stay together? Every scene, every silence, every choice this season will reflect that struggle. Another theme woven deeply into this chapter is healing through resilience. Healing here isn't quick, and it isn't simple. It's not about brushing away pain, but learning to live with it. Amy embodies this when she returns to the barn, broken yet determined, choosing to keep moving forward. Jack embodies it when he carries his sorrow quietly, teaching by example that strength can be soft. Lou, Tim, Katie, they all stumble, but in their stumbles we see a deeper truth. Healing is not a straight line. It bends, it breaks, it circles back. And yet, each character keeps walking. The season also explores the courage to begin again. After tragedy, beginnings feel impossible, almost disrespectful to what was lost. But Heartland shows us that starting over is not betrayal, it's survival. It's a way of honoring what was loved by living fully in the present. Whether it's Lou taking risks she once avoided, Tim trying to rewrite old patterns, or Katie stepping into her independence, every new beginning becomes a declaration. We are still here. There's also a quieter theme, the healing power of the land and the horses. The ranch has always been more than a backdrop. It's a character itself. The rolling fields, the open skies, the steady rhythm of hooves, these are reminders of continuity. While people grieve, the land endures. The horses, sensitive and intuitive, respond to the family's emotions, mirroring their pain, but also guiding them toward calm. Heartland reminds us that nature doesn't erase grief, but it makes space for it, softens it, and eventually carries us forward. Season 19 is not about pretending life is easy. It is about showing how fragile we are, and yet how unbreakable we can become. It's about the shadows that remind us of light, and the losses that teach us how to love deeper. Visually, the faceless video can capture these themes through contrasts, storm clouds breaking into sunlight, hands reaching across a dinner table, a horse galloping into the horizon. Each image mirrors the season's message, that tragedy and hope live side by side, and that healing is a story of persistence, not perfection. The narrator's voice carries a calm, reflective tone as the music swells. Heartland Season 19 is a season of contrasts, grief and joy, endings and beginnings, silence and song. But above all, it is a season that tells us, no matter what we lose, the heart still finds a way to beat. And that heartbeat, though scarred, will guide us into a new chapter. The section closes on a shot of the ranch under a rising sun, the horizon painted gold, as if the land itself whispers, life goes on. The screen begins with shadows. A lantern flickers in the barn, casting light that dances across the wooden beams. The ranch is quiet, still holding the echoes of what was lost. Then, slowly the light grows brighter. Morning is arriving. Every story has its turning point. And in Heartland Season 19, that point is not marked by endings, but by the courage to rise from them. The narrator's voice carries a deliberate rhythm, slow and steady, as the visuals shift between memories of the tragedy and glimpses of new life. Amy's hand brushing through a horse's mane, Jack's boots crunching across the gravel, Lou opening a door to let in sunlight, Katie standing tall in the open field. The tragedy has scarred them, but it has not broken them. Instead, it has carved them into something new. And this is the build-up the audience has been waiting for, the transformation of pain into power. Season 19 is not about forgetting what happened. It is about remembering and choosing to live fully anyway. It is about the laughter that still returns after tears, the strength that grows from weakness, and the hope that blooms even in soil watered by grief. The faceless visuals lean into symbolism, a foal taking its first steps, seeds sprouting in the ground, the family walking side by side into the golden light. Each image tells the same story. New beginnings born from sorrow. The music swells, layering strings with soft piano, building an emotional crescendo. The narrator's voice rises with it. This is not just another season of Heartland. This is a season that will leave no heart untouched.